other down. We'll believe in freedom, cannot rest until it's won.
Greetings and welcome to Love in Public, sponsored by Sarah Jones Law PA. Our goal here at Love in Public is to discuss issues of social, economic, and community justice in a way that's relatable and accessible to everyday people. In today's episode, we have Ms. Jill Tuman. Jill is a private investigator with Prison Break Investigations here in Polk County, Florida. Jill, tell us about yourself and what you do.
So I am a licensed private investigator. I've been working for about 2.5 years now, and this job has allowed me to use my past career as a police officer and a deputy sheriff. I enjoy my job. I like to help people. I feel that investigations are very important.
All right, so Jill and I have actually been working together for a few years now. I originally met Jill because my caseload kind of got beyond what one investigator could handle, and we brought on Jill as a second investigator. I was honestly pretty nervous when I first met Jill because I am a creature of habit, and I wanted what I had already had. I had learned since then I was very wrong because Jill has been an amazing resource to our clients. You mentioned that you do criminal investigations. And that you used to be in law enforcement. Can you talk to us about how your law enforcement history and the training that you received as a law enforcement officer sort of informs what you do in your job today?
Sure. I mean, basic academy, what they teach you in the police academy, you have a knowledge of how things are supposed to work with search and seizure, what you can and cannot do, ethical behavior. Those types of things are learned on this journey. And I was a law enforcement officer a long time ago. However, I have had a lot of help along the way. There have been a lot of people who have guided me in learning this job. I think I always had it in me and I always wanted to be an investigator. I just didn't. There's different reasons why that didn't happen, but I've had a lot of people help me, and people like my boss, Billy Lane, has been very helpful. My coworker, Tim Ellis, has been very helpful. You know, my friends that I still keep in touch with who are still in law enforcement or they are retired, I call them if I have a question about a case. So making those contacts in my life has, and keeping in touch with people has really been beneficial to me.
Yeah, one thing that I've learned in working with you is part of the reason it's beneficial in our cases, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that sometimes our job is to see what law enforcement didn't do. And I found that it really helps to have your background of knowing what they're supposed to do, or even just having contacts in different agencies to be able to say, what are you, does this sound right to you? How has that helped you in cases where law enforcement's investigation of whatever the criminal case is has not either not been adequate or didn't go far enough to discover the facts that would have been beneficial to our client?
I think when you look at a case, no matter if you do criminal defense investigating or if you do, you're a law enforcement officer, you have all the witnesses, you have all the people that you need to talk to in front of you. So it frustrates me when someone is arrested and I don't feel like, oh my gosh, they didn't go talk to this person, or they didn't check out this story to see if this is true, because I know a lot of times the law enforcement officers have a lot of cases they're working. I understand that, but just going the extra mile to ensure that you are providing correct information, or I don't like lazy people. I'm a hardworking person, and I think that and not saying cops are lazy, I think they have a big caseload, but you have to just look into all the different avenues that are in a case to make sure that you have your information correctly.
You mentioned lazy, and having worked a lot of these cases with you, sometimes it is that the officer just didn't do the thing right. Sometimes I find that when I open up a case file, when I read the discovery, read the evidence, the reports that the officers have written, I will see where it is very obvious that there was a piece of information or a witness that had more questions been asked or more investigation been done. The officer may have easily come to the conclusion that the story is not all one way, or that our client didn't do it, or at least it didn't happen the way that somebody alleged it happened. Either way, there's oftentimes when we work together, something out there that your investigation overturns that seems to have been neglected during the law enforcement investigation. Can you just tell us about sort of your experience of that, how you pick it out when you see it? Like what makes you, when you read those reports, how do you find those additional details that law enforcement sometimes missed?
I know that when you are, let's say you're a police officer and you're on patrol, you have a lot of calls that you go to from call to call to call many times. There's not a lot of time to get these cases right. You know, you come up with witnesses. Somebody might mention when you're interviewing them, you know, this is somebody that has knowledge. Well, why did you not go talk to that person? That's very frustrating for me, because that might have proven that the person who's been arrested and oftentimes incarcerated is not guilty of what they did. Just digging a little bit deeper, spending a little more time, and you know, not defending any activities by how law enforcement handles cases or criticizing. It's just, I think a lot of it is a time factor. Some of it may be laziness factor. You know, I think sometimes too, it's their job is to put people in jail. You know, their job is to put people in jail and let the court system figure it out. That's how I feel sometimes.
Do you feel like, in your experience with law enforcement, both inside and since you've become a private investigator, that that's also the sentiment from the officers and from a lot of times their administration?
Yes, I do. I feel very strongly about that. Just cases, I've got a man right now that is innocent of the things he was charged with, and if this detective had followed up on the information that was given to him, all you had to do is do a public records request to find out some information. But it just seems like you have somebody you want to arrest somebody for, and you want to arrest them and put them away.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, because that's a very interesting observation, because the way that we close cases as a criminal defense attorney is very different from the way that you close a case as an investigator, and very different from the way that law enforcement closes their cases, and again, very different from the way that the state closes their cases. So the state and I, as attorneys, close the case when the prosecution ends, whether that's by a trial or a plea agreement or whatever the case may be. When the case ends is when we sort of close our files. But I have seen something often in police reports that says file closed by arrest. And so their job is perceivably done when an arrest is made.
Yes.
How do you find that that affects the actual person being charged?
Well, if you're an innocent person and file closed by arrest, that kind of means, well, okay, we're done. You're going to jail. You're going to sit in there. And let's say somebody doesn't have a lot of money to pay for an attorney or an attorney's services, you know, or have an investigator that's out here busting their hump trying to help find the truth. That's my job. My job is to find out what the truth is. Regardless if my client's innocent or guilty, my job is to find out what happened. So oftentimes you have the client's story, you have law enforcement story, and usually the truth lies somewhere right in between there. And if somebody took the time to look into a lot of things, I think the criminal justice system could be saved a lot of money through the court system.
And I presume you've had clients in that situation where they've been arrested, they've been charged, whether they are held incarcerated during the pendency of their case or whether they're out on bond, their freedom is still subject to the judge's discretion, and limited in any event. Can you talk to us about some of those innocent clients that have been charged and it took whatever amount of time to sort of vet the case and prove their innocence. Talk to us about the experience that those people were having during the pendency of their case, when they're obviously very worried that they will be convicted of something that they didn't do.
Again, I have a client right now. This man has lost everything. He's lucky that his bond was able to be reduced. I don't know how it got reduced, because he was going to be in there with his charges. He was going to be sitting in there for until this whole thing was over. So, you know, paying a lot of money to get out of jail and then coming home and losing your job because of an arrest, you know, losing family members no longer talking to you about something that you're charged with. So you know, you've established a relationship with new family perhaps, and then now they won't talk to you because they're ashamed that they're associated with you. So you have no money, you have no job to support yourself, so you have to rely on parents or friends. But the man I'm referring to has, you know, gone into business for himself, so he's lucky that he is able to provide for his family and his household like that. But you know, it has taken me, I mean, I focus on cases, and it's taken me lots and lots and lots of hours and time to prove that this guy is innocent of what he did. And it just frustrates me, because if it would have been, these things would have been looked into, you would clearly see that these allegations were not true, and the background and everything. So it's very frustrating. It's very discouraging at times, but this is the stuff that gives me an adrenaline rush, is when I discover new things in a case, new witnesses. It's almost like an adrenaline dump. Oh my gosh, this person's actually, I found them, or I'm going to talk to them. They're going to meet with me, because a lot of times people will not talk to me, unfortunately. But lately I've had a streak of good luck that's made me very happy. So,
and for our audience, this is not lately. I actually am going to take this opportunity to tell a little story. So Jill and I actually have a joint client who we are both quite certain that he's innocent. And there is one particular witness that the information was put into the police report wrong, and there was no, in my estimation, there was no way to find this guy. All we had is a name that turned out to be not fully correct. And I said to Jill one day, oh, I would love to be able to find this guy, but how could we possibly find him? And I just kind of said it offhandedly. And then it probably was a couple weeks later, I get a call from Jill, like, I found him. And I'm like, no, dude, what are you talking about? And she's like, the guy in the case. And she said his name and the client's name, of course. And I was kind of taken aback, like, how did you find him? And it's so funny. Like, can you talk to us? Obviously, don't tell us all of your secrets.
No.
Can you talk to us about, one, what drives you to keep going to find that impossible thing that I didn't think we were going to find? And how do you what is the thought process you go through in saying, okay, first of all, you have to get rid of that block that we can't do it, right? And then
yes.
What's that next step for you? How do you sort of go about accomplishing moving this mountain?
I think just exploring all avenues without giving away any secrets, but exploring all avenues. You know, your client has a lot of information about what he or she remembers about the incident. You know, names. You might have a client named John Smith. If you got to look at 50 John Smiths and call or text, email everything you can find out about John Smith, I don't care if there's 50, you have to just keep trying. I don't give up very easily. I'm pretty my
tenacious.
Mom and dad tell me I'm stubborn.
We'll say tenacious.
That's better. But no, I think that basically just, I have a system of how I do things, and by following that system, I think it's helped make me successful at finding and talking to people. And you know, and I just think sometimes you just get lucky, but it's hard work, and it's a lot of energy put in. But if you truly believe somebody's innocent, you're going to do whatever you can to prove that. And that's how I feel. If you're innocent, I work hard with all my cases and all my clients, but I really think that that's what drives me, is when somebody's innocent, I'm going to find everybody I need to talk to.
Right. Why? I mean, I know you love to do your job and you want to do a good job, but ultimately, what's that underlying why? Why is that so important to you? Why does that energize you so much?
Just because I think there are a lot of people that come into our lives with this job that have never been given, some of them have never been given a fair chance. And yes, they've gotten in trouble and they're in this situation for a certain reason, but this is their chance. If you can prove they're innocent, they can get out of jail. They can go have a great life if they want to. They can quit committing crimes if that's what they've been doing. They have a second chance, and that's very important to me, you know, to make sure that I feel responsible. I feel I got to do my best to try to help this person if they're innocent. But I mean, and I feel that way about all my clients, but especially if they're innocent.
Right. And I think there's something, I think maybe every great criminal defense attorney, everybody great who works in the criminal justice system has that thing that this system has to work because there are crimes that are committed, some lesser, some greater. But when you get that person that should not be here, um, it's something completely different and it energizes you in a completely different way because you can't help but see that this is wrong.
Yes.
There's no, like some of those, like I have some clients that I'll go, yeah, he got caught with meth, but he has a drug problem and he was abused as a child. And there's all of these, there's this complex weighing of how bad is it and how does he need to be punished and is this really the best result for everybody involved. But when you have someone who is clearly innocent, and it's abundantly clear to you because you've done the research and the discovery and the investigation to figure these things out, and you've stared at it and you've questioned yourself to make sure you're not stupid for thinking somebody who might have done something didn't do it. And so after you've done this whole vetting process and you're sure, that just does something completely different. And to be able to know that and to have the skill to bring the truth to light and to actually free another human being, that is something that is just it's unmatched, you know. And so that's so awesome. You said
Yeah.
something earlier that I wanted to make sure that we touched on today. Jill Tuman is the master of a public records request. I actually just argued a motion this morning that referenced one of your public records requests and won. But yeah, so I'll tell you about that later when we can talk about confidential things. But talk to us about the ways in which a public records request can be powerful in an investigation.
This is why I feel it's so important to know your client's background. If you know some things have happened to your client, you can request reports regarding them. Previous officers come to light in those reports a lot of times. So let's give an example. If an officer says in court, I've never had contact with this person. Well, here's a report, Officer so-and-so, it's right here. That's how my mind works. It's the whole big picture of everything. You know, here's a house. I've gone to see it. I'm looking into what my client's being charged with. I request those records from that address because I want to know what kind of things have happened here. And if we get that, we can also have some background about who might have been present during these crimes, et cetera, et cetera. So right. I just, I don't know, maybe my brain works a little differently than other people's, but that's kind of the approach I take.
Well, one thing I've seen you do, we'll get discovery in a case, right? And for people who don't know, discovery is all the written evidence, or supposedly all the written evidence. Yeah. And I heard your reaction, so I think you know where I'm going with this. When we get that discovery, it's everything that the state intends to use against our client if we were to go to trial and in the litigation leading up to trial. You then turn around and make some additional requests. Tell us about what that process is like and why you do that.
Well, I'm trying to think. just combing through the discovery, you know, what's missing, what's, you know, what do we not have? Once we get that discovery, looking at this, okay, what's missing? What's missing? This is how you come across more evidence.
And how do you
So,
come to determine what's missing? Like, why? How? What can you give us a peek into the window into your brain? How?
um,
What are you looking for when you're saying what's missing?
so for example, let's say there were other agencies that were involved in this, state agencies. You then see a name in the report. Oh, wow, was this person interviewed? Okay, well, maybe we need to get the reports from this interview with the, or, you know, this person went out and did some home visits or some things like that. We need to talk. There's, I have a case right now. This person's name is mentioned one time. And I also know from interviewing witnesses that this person's role in this case and what all work has been done with this family.
Mhm.
So why did the police not go talk to this person, and why is it not in the report? That's how my brain works. We got
And
to
then how do you
contact this.
follow up on that?
Oftentimes we have to have subpoenas because oftentimes people don't want to talk to me. And if you don't talk to me freely, then we'll just subpoena you.
Okay,
You
so
know?
there's a step before that, because I think that the people who don't talk to you are the people who you kind of, who are standing out in your mind right now. But I know from working with you that a lot of people do talk to you.
Oh,
And
sure.
we have had a lot of success with people talking to you. So can you, I know that there's people who are just not going to talk to you, right? You're an investigator. People equate that with law enforcement. There's a lot of people who do not want to talk to law enforcement, or people who seem to be in a position of authority. But those people who do talk to you, how do you approach them? What is it that, you don't have to tell us what you say, but what is your approach to people when you say, hey, you have information that I might need, and you very well might not even care about this situation, or you might care very much about this situation, or it may impact you in a way that you're worried about. How do you approach people, or how do you decide how to approach people when you want to gather the information that has not been already provided to you?
Sometimes you're walking into a very volatile situation with relationships between, let's say, our client and, you know, a witness in the case, whether it's a victim, whether it's a witness. You have to, I approach things, I'm just a good listener. So I'm listening to what you're saying, and oftentimes people get very comfortable and I let them talk. And you know, I'm not here to judge anybody. I just want to hear your story. I want to hear what your version is of what happened. That's important to me. And you know, regardless if our client's innocent or guilty, my job is to find out what is the truth, what happened, and just you know, just telling people you have information that could free someone. It's very important to me that we get this information. What would you do if this was your son or your daughter? What would you do? Wouldn't you want somebody to come out and tell the truth about what happened? That's important. So
And
that's,
how do you find that's different from how law enforcement talks to people?
well, I don't want to speak for everyone.
And I don't mean to say that law enforcement should talk
No.
to them that way, but generally, I mean, you were a law enforcement officer. Is that the approach that you're trained to have when you're a law enforcement officer, or is it a little bit more? I don't want to characterize it. You answer. I'll let you answer if you want.
I think sometimes, many times, I think it's just a different way of looking at things. In law enforcement, you know, perhaps you're trained when you're going to you're told on the screen what kind of call you're going to. So, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but you're going to a certain call, you have somebody complaining about, oh, he hit me. Let's just throw that out there. You get there, you don't talk to one of the people involved in the case, but you talk to the other one. And then maybe both of them were involved, you know, and you don't talk to both of them. So they both should be going to jail if both of them hit each other, but because you don't talk to both of them, one person goes. And I think
Or
it's
a reasonable alternative situation where the other person might have had a completely different story that might
yes,
make more sense if
yes,
you heard it, you know they never actually hear it.
right. I think it's a time factor. A lot of times it's a time factor. You know, you have 4 calls waiting on you when you get done with this one. So we want to get a resolution quickly. But I think when you are especially a female police officer, you have to have the presence of confidence and establish a dominance. Maybe we can say it that way when you get to a scene, because that's how people get hurt. If you go to a scene and you talk to people, I'm not a police officer, but when I was a police officer, I talked to them like you and I are having a conversation right now.
Okay, so that's very interesting, and I wanna get into that a little bit. The worries, the dangers, the fears, the animosity, the tensions that come with wearing that uniform and possessing and wearing that badge are something much different than your position as a private investigator and as a private citizen, where there are not all of these additional factors that have nothing to do with the conversation you're having with another person. How does that change the course of someone's case?
I think oftentimes, and I'll be honest, I've had clients maybe not want to be honest with me because I'm white. Let's just say how it is.
It's a reality. There's racial mistrust in a lot of instances.
Something I want to do also with this job is not just to be an investigator. I want to bring people together. I want people of all races to communicate and forget about stereotypes. And I think I think that when my clients, I take the time to get to know them and take the time to get to know their background, because I think it plays a big role in who they are and how do we get from here to here? Well, these factors, okay? But in looking at someone, if you have preconditioned thoughts and stereotypes in your brain, you're not going to talk to that person. You're not going to tell the truth, perhaps. You're not going to, or you're going to think, well, they don't care, or whatever it might be. But I think that I don't know, maybe it's my personality. I just try to be as compassionate, and I try to treat people respectfully. And I'm pretty successful a lot of times getting people to talk to me. So I think that if people can start to know each other's cultures, perhaps, and have an understanding of that, that's important to me, because I want to do my job well, and I can't do my job well if we can't communicate.
Right, and I think there's a certain level of respect that comes with that. I know that when you first started working with us, it was a little bit more difficult to get people to talk to you, but I've seen in this area that you have gained the respect of a lot of community members.
Thank you.
And yeah, don't thank me, thank you. And that has been an important transition in our community. Can you there was an instance, I guess maybe earlier this year, last year, where one of the cases we were working required you to reach out to a lot of community members about one particular issue. And a lot of people came to trust you and came to you with their stories. Can you, without giving away what was going on and what, those type details of the case, can you tell us what that experience was like for you to ask the questions that a lot of people didn't want the answers to, and to sort of be in that position of being in that unpopular place, but what that did for you and your clients and your and the ability for the community to be able to trust you?
I think that when people realize the reason you're calling to talk with them, that's telling them you care. You care about their experiences, and you care about what's happening in their community. So people like to talk when they've had something bad happen. They want to have somebody listen to them. So I think that maybe word of mouth, I don't know, maybe I've actually made some friends out of this, good contacts in the community, but we've become friends because, you know, we took the time to listen to each other and gotten to know each other's situations, and you care. So that's my perspective on it. It's and you know, those people, then if you have information you need, those people will help you next time.
Yeah. I guess that's what I was trying to get at, that sort of exchange where you used your position in a way that might not have been particularly beneficial to you, but to do the right thing and advocate for people who were otherwise not believed. And I'm glad that I sort of landed there. Can you talk to me about your experience of speaking with the community members and what it felt like, whether or not you believe many of them, and the ones that you did believe, do you felt like they were believed when they tried to tell their stories to other people in positions of power, or did they not feel empowered to do so?
I think they didn't feel empowered to do so, partly that they felt like, what good is this going to do? And I still hear that. What good is it going to do? My response to that is, if everybody has that attitude, then nothing's going to change. To change is hard work, and you have to be willing to put the hard work in to make change. And
what of the fears that they have surrounding? How do you balance that?
I think a lot of their fears are legitimate fears, you know, but somebody's got to have the guts to stand up for what's right. And, you know, if you have to be that person, maybe if 5 of y'all would come together and do it, but people are gonna, they're gonna fear retaliation a lot of times. They're gonna fear being targeted, you know. I've had that told to me. So those types of things.
Okay, so we only have a few more minutes here, so I want to ask you some kind of deep brain questions, or maybe deep heart questions. I know, right? That's my MO, lawyer asking the hard questions. What is it ultimately? You mentioned that you've had a couple different careers. You started off in law enforcement and sort of left law enforcement, and we didn't really get into your reasons for that. But you ended up coming back to similar work, but sort of also different work that you could have more control over, and more that you could choose your work in a lot of different ways. And please don't let me put words in your mouth. But what what do you hope to get from this career? What is your ultimate goal or passion, or, you know?
I think I want to help bring people together, you know, regardless of race. You know, I want to help people. I want to help people find the truth. Listen, this job is very hard for me because I pick up on people's energies and I talk to them all the time about their backgrounds. It's very hard to listen to somebody's story when they've had a hard life. So if I can help give somebody a second chance, that's what means a lot to me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though, in a way, you want to be an ambassador for good people. And I was tempted to say something about white people in there, just to be honest.
Yeah.
But in the way that people of color are viewed collectively, and it does not matter what I do, I will be an ambassador for Black people, and I don't have a choice in the matter. But you're choosing that, which is something that's very interesting, and I think it's altruistic. Why?
That's been me my whole life. I'm gonna get emotional here.
It's okay. We get emotional sometimes. I think that's something that's powerful, though, because a lot of people see emotion as something that is weak, or something that is unprofessional, or something that is a distraction. But what I have found in working with you is that passion, that you just want right to be done. It is unbearable for you to watch injustice, and that is one of the reasons that you are on our team. And and that we have put so much time into making sure that our companies can work together because you really have a passion um, for the justice work that we do. And even though sometimes I will intentionally sort of pull this out of you, and maybe that's not fair, I'm sorry. Um, but it really speaks to what happens when you're not in front of a camera. It really speaks to what happens when you're not in a love in public interview. You put that same emotion and energy and caring and compassion into every one of your cases. And what it does is it produces excellent outcomes for our clients. And so I wanted to illustrate how I think the most powerful thing you said was you get it done because you want to. You get it done because you're passionate about it, and that you can't bear for this wrong thing to happen. And I think that sort of tenacity and that sort of drive towards what is right and what is true and what is excellent is such a benefit to our clients, such a benefit to everyone who you serve. And I think that it will serve you well throughout your life, if I may say so.
You know, I hate this about myself, that I'm an emotional person. I mean, as a police officer, I was turning into something that I was totally not. And that is cynical, jaded, stereotypical. That is not who I was. That's one reason why I left the career. You know, I'm an emotional person. I mean, I got to reel that in a little bit a lot of times, but it just, you know, it's not a weakness to show emotion.
To feel, yeah.
It just shows that you care. That's all.
And in all honesty, your intuition has been a benefit to many of our clients. And so if you did not allow yourself those feelings, you would not have experienced the intuition to say, something's missing. Or no, I know he's telling the truth. Or I know he's lying, you know, so that I don't go down a rabbit hole. And I'm going to go back to something you said and challenge you a little bit. You said you hate that you are this way. That is extremely strong language to say that you hate anything about yourself. And so I'll challenge you back on that. And I won't go through that whole challenge with you right here on camera. But I would really, I, as a person who has experienced that and gone through it and overcome it in a lot of ways, I used to hate that I am emotional. And I know I sit here with a very straight face today and don't seem emotional. But I used to hate it as well until I realized what a benefit it is to the people I service, that I care so much, that I feel it deep in my gut when something is wrong. Because if you have ever felt that deep in your gut something is wrong, you know you can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't do anything until you solve that problem. And that push, that passion, whatever that is that bubbles up in your stomach, makes you excellent at what you do.
Thank you.
And it is a tremendous benefit to the people that you serve. So I would challenge you to withdraw your hatred of that particular thing and of anything related to yourself. And while I have certainly learned that I have to keep a straight face more often than I used to, that passion that used to be more exposed than it is now is the very same passion that has allowed me to serve hundreds of clients in a way that's beneficial to them in their overall experience. And it's been a method by which I can show my leadership and that I care and that I am someone who should be entrusted with these very serious issues. And that is something that's completely awesome. You know, that I think it comes from a place of love, and I think that's a perfect way to end our episode today, because this show is about love in public, and your love for our clients on a holistic level, because you don't know them before you meet them, right? But it's a certain love for justice and humanity, and the fact that we all are deserving of certain rights and the truth is something that is nothing other than justice. And so I really enjoyed talking with you today. Of course, I've enjoyed working
Thanks.
with you.
Thank you.
Jill is one of my favorites, guys.
The feeling is very mutual, Sarah. I'm just blessed to work with your amazing staff and, have your support. I want to just share something. When I became an investigator, I will say my computer skills are getting better. But Sarah met me. I don't know what she thought. I think I know what she thought of me because you told me. But here's this girl having computer issues. I'd never served a subpoena before. It was in a rough part of town. I was a little nervous. I did it, but I was having computer issues. And, she could have said, oh my goodness, who are they sending me to take care of my clients? But Sarah took the time to show me, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. Because, I didn't have computers in college. My job when I was in dentistry, my job, you have a certain program that you use and you do it for 23 years, you learn it. But a lot of stuff, learning a new job, learning computer skills, it was very hard. And you took the time to show me how to do certain things. And that was like, wow. Because I was intimidated by you when I first met you, and I thought, I just want to do a good job, but I don't want this person to see me struggling with this, because who doesn't know how to use a computer? But, you were have been one of the ones to help me on my journey doing this job. And I really have appreciated that.
Well, I would like to point this out to anyone who is a leader or a manager of people or who owns a business and employs people. It is very easy to find someone who has technical knowledge and skills. I could pull a teenager from the high school who knows how to use a computer, but does he have emotional intelligence? Is he able to talk to people? Does he genuinely care? Will he stay up late at night to find what it is that needs to be found? I can teach you how to use a computer. The computer is easy. What is hard, what is really, really hard, is to sit with the realities that we deal with every day and not be able to tell anyone. We have strict confidentiality rules in our profession where you guys have heard me today say, we're not going to get into the facts. We're not going to talk about, we're not going to give you any indication of who we're talking about or what it is. And you have to go to sleep at night and you have to want to do it again the next day in order to do a good job. And that you cannot teach. And so don't think you did not come to us fully formed. There's always new gadgets and there's always new technologies and new procedures and things that you've never had to do before. But your tenacity in attacking and handling those things and your willingness to learn speaks far more about you and your ability to do a job than whether or not you knew to click a button. I can teach a monkey to click a button. And so, I just want people who are in positions of leadership to really understand that I fancy myself a decent leader. And one thing that I have learned is my team performs at a super, super high level, doing a higher capacity than most people in their same fields in other areas of our community. Because of the fact that we bring in people who have the ability to do the jobs that we ask them to do, but more so have the passion and the desire to really bring the results to our clients that they deserve. And when you put people like that in a room together, magic is bound to happen.
I agree. I appreciate you.
Well, I think that is a great place to end. Thank you so much, Jill, for all your hard work and for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
I look forward to continuing to work with you, like I said. Thank you for being here at Love in Public, sponsored by Sarah Jones Law, and we look forward to all the greatness that is to come.
Justice, freedom. We believe in freedom, cannot rest.